That's crucial to keeping the Trailblazers in the Rose City is now headed to the governor's desk.
And the legislation would put hundreds of millions of dollars toward renovating the decades-old arena. Let's bring in Fox 12's Abby Davis now, live from Salem with reaction to this. Abby?
Yeah, lawmakers are very excited to see this bill clear both chambers. It's also not a surprise considering it's gotten so much support from both sides of the aisle since it was introduced. The bill passed the House this afternoon with 42 lawmakers giving their vote of support compared to the 14 who voted no. If signed into law, Oregon would have a framework to secure $365 million for renovations at the Moda Center. It would create a shared ownership between the state and the city of Portland and establish the Oregon Arena Fund that would be used to cover the cost. Taxes collected in and around the arena would also be redirected to that fund, including a jock tax generated from the salaries of visiting players and performers who use the arena. Democratic representative and chief sponsor of the bill, Daniel Wynn, says the legislation sets Oregon up for the win.
I think it's clear that Oregon's economy is at a turning point, it's at an inflection point, and this is the shot now to really give that boost, really give us that motivation to keep going, right? And I think it sends a strong signal that Oregon's open for business.
The Moda Center, which opened in 1995, is the oldest facility in the NBA that has never undergone a major renovation. Wynn says the bill isn't just important for the economy, but to also help keep Portland. While testifying on the floor today, many lawmakers shared their love of the Trailblazers and why they believe these renovations will help keep the team and other sports teams here. The Trailblazers president of business operations also chimed in, calling today a great day for the community. He said this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to renovate Moda Center and catalyze economic growth in the heart of a vibrant Lower Albina neighborhood. Working with local leaders, we're ready to get started on the next chapter for this franchise. We're not sure when the governor will get to this bill. There's a lot headed her way with the session expected to wrap up today, but we do know that she has supported the effort in the past. Reporting live in Salem, Abby Davis, Fox 12 Oregon.
For decades, Oregon has been trounced with Democrat policies, making livability much worse for the average citizen. A supermajority keeping the state blue when the totality of the state is 92% red. So many things are keeping the state dividing and seemingly unable to balance what clearly needs to be changed. Will flipping the governor's seat to Republican even be enough to make those changes needed? Or will we need to see more of a balanced House and Senate to assist? Too many things to think about as the March filing deadline approaches this next week. What will the 2026 primaries bring us here in Oregon? Let's hash it out with a local guest running for representative next on Redline Live. All right, I'm bringing in a special guest today, running for District 51 here in Oregon. Her name is Dana Hindman-Allen. She is a fifth-generation Oregonian with deep roots, strong values, and a lifelong commitment to serving her community. She was raised in Portland's West Hills and a graduate of Lincoln High School and Warner Pacific. Thank you for joining us today, Dana, and welcome in. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Joe, for having me on the show. You know, your opener with the Moda Center and you know, first of all of us love the Blazers. That's not the issue here. I just want to put that in perspective. I am good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question, the $365 million for renovations after we know they sold it for $1 when the Blazers could have retained the Moda Center themselves. And now they want to put this tax bill on the Oregonian taxpayers. And I'm hearing $40 million a year. What do you think about that?
First of all, when I heard the chief sponsor in the opening clip saying this is the signal that it's open for business, I'm literally going, wait a minute. Taxing people on 100% publicly funded situation for a private, really it's going to be a private enterprise with the teams coming in. We will not see a dime of that money going back into the general fund. spending our money to signal that business is open. It's the process that gets me. Putting an emergency clause in basically locks the public out of the vote, locks them out of the process. Let me give you some statistics. Sacramento is 52% privately funded. And so that's privately funded along with public. So it's a combination. Detroit, 60% privately funded. Atlanta, 26% privately funded. Oklahoma City, 50 million private capital. Okay, so we basically had no time to hash this out and put it on a ballot and negotiate a better deal for Portland. And by putting that emergency clause on, it completely stopped us from referring it to the ballot for a vote. And as you know, we just got done with a huge referendum, which was the 1599 bill that is now going to be Measure 120 on the ballot. And people clearly said, we need a break from taxes right now. And so what did they do? They did an emergency clause and slammed it through.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm curious, just your personal opinion. Like, I know there are Blazers fan here in Oregon, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a huge basketball fan. And to me, it's like that the Moda Center is basically for them, right? I mean, we have sports, other events going on there than sports, like concerts and stuff. But wasn't it largely built for the Blazers? And now they're talking about heading out of Oregon possibly because they're being sold off. What do you think about that?
Well, here's the deal. It's 100% publicly funded, zero private, zero rent and revenue to the general fund. Basically, the deal is there's no guarantees here. And we're putting all this money in and there's no guarantees right now. So, yeah, I mean, I've coached basketball for 5 years. I love basketball. I love the Blazers, but we needed to negotiate a deal. And how do you negotiate a deal when it's basically people being self-serving in the legislature? There's being self-serving and doing an emergency clause. So now Oregonians cannot weigh in on that to the point where taxation without representation. That's how I feel. It's taxation without representation.
Yeah, and just like Jeff Halford says right here, he says the lack of private investment had been a major sticking point for the bill's detractors, saying the legislator gave him political whiplash with its attitude towards billionaires. It is a glaring double standard, said Halford, who voted against the bill. We call out the wealthy for not stepping up, then turn right around and hand them a massive public subsidy.
Exactly. Well, it's reminiscent. I'm going to go way back. It's reminiscent of the 2008 bailout the banks. We need to have the private investors come to the table. We can't subsidize a complete project because this is like it's in progress here. We don't know how this will, weigh out. Okay. We don't know. There's no guarantees on it. It's just right on the heels of the referendum that everybody fought so hard to get on the ballot. And then all of a sudden we're just going to, lock the public out of voting on a new tax. And it's not just, it's a new tax for 20 years. And it will cost 2.5 times, the amount that the bond will be to pay it back with interest.
Wow. So that's like on top of the ODOT bill that they're now kicking up to a vote in May after we gathered 250,000 signatures here in Oregon to put it on the ballot for the people to vote on. So now they're kicking us in the butt with that too. It's like, so now we got the Trump administration who is taking away federal funding. And this is my opinion on the matter. They're taking away federal funding in a lot of different areas. And so they're like, oh crap, we have to come up with other stuff because we're going to lose our butts on all of this. Not to mention that the deficit that they're already in, we're going to look at that here in a bit. But to make up for the landfall of funds that they're missing from the federal government, I feel like they're now putting it on the Oregon taxpayer. What say you?
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Essentially, the whole state is funding this. There was no negotiation. I sell real estate for a living. It's about win-win, okay? There was no negotiation with the public on it. We didn't come to the table, hash out all of the different ways we could do that. And that is the representative government. And furthermore, where are our priorities? I mean, people are struggling, and this is a signal that business is open. No, you know what a signal that business is open is when we repeal the CAT tax, the corporate activities tax. That is drowning businesses right now. And yet, this is the priority.
Right. Okay, so now I want to take a look at your platform here so everybody can get a good look at your website specifically. So anybody who is in your district can find you here at what's your website?
So Dana4Oregon.com, and the 4 is spelled out.
Here we go. All right. So let's look at your issues platform, because one of the things that I really wanted to get into, since you were talking about you're in realty and stuff, I have a video here I want to pop up real quick, and then we're going to come back to your, let's see, which one did I, land use and private property was this way. Yeah. Then we'll come back to this and we'll talk about the livability here in Oregon. So let me pop this video up and then we'll get into that.
Overall, folks are earning more in Oregon, which is a positive. At the same time, levels of debt are rising about a consistent pace.
A new report from the Oregon State Treasury detailing the financial successes and challenges Oregonians face. While Oregonians are making more money, the report shows many are still struggling to keep up with the high cost of living. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for K2 News at 11 tonight. I'm Deborah Knapp. We want to get straight to K2's Jennifer Singh with more on the report and what Portlanders are experiencing. Jen?
Yeah, Deb, the new financial wellness scorecard reaffirms what many Oregonians say they're experiencing, which is financial pressures as the cost of basic necessities like food, utilities, and housing continues to rise.
As the cost of living continues to rise, Oregonians are feeling the strain.
It always feels like a choice between cutting back on one basic necessity to pay for another one.
My electric bill, for example, I feel went up a few $100s the last couple of years.
A new report from the Oregon State Treasurer now shows just how much financial pressure Oregonians are under, finding that even as Oregonians are overall making more money, more than half have difficulty paying bills. Nearly 3/4 cut back spending because of rising housing and food costs, and nearly half say they would not be able to cover a $500 emergency.
$259, please.
Francisco Guerrero's family owns Penny Market in southeast Portland. He says he sees the financial stress many customers are facing daily.
Things don't seem to be going any better. The inflation seems to be getting a little out of control, and it's affecting a lot of people.
One customer telling me he works 7 days a week, balancing 2 different jobs while costs keep piling up.
I got paid today, and it's almost all bills already.
Ashley Wilson with Oregon State Credit Union says while the numbers in the report can be daunting, the information is crucial.
I think it's really important for people to know they're not alone and that there are small steps that they can take in order to improve their financial situation, whatever that may be.
Some Portlanders say they want to see more being done at the state and local level to bring these statistics back down.
It doesn't take much to become homeless. It really doesn't.
Now, the report did detail some positive progress throughout the state, detailing how net worth and net income is rising. More Oregonians are being able to save for retirement as well as for emergencies and education. And they also say more working adults are going through personal finance courses, which can help with financial stability. Now, we do have tips from the state treasurer as well as links to community resources that can help you and your family navigate your finances on our website, KE2.com. For now, live in Southeast Portland, Jennifer Singh, K2 News.
See, so this is crazy to me. Like, this is a double conundrum. So we're sitting here and we're talking about the Moda Center tax that we're going to end up accruing because they want to put renovations on it. Then they say that we actually have, the Oregonians overall have an increase, but they're suffering. They can't even afford a $500 emergency fund. And so they're touting this on the news, but increasing your taxes is what's good for the Oregonian people. I mean, when you think about housing, like one of the things I just did was sold my condo. It actually took, I was trying to get it done before the selling boom in my area was done, but I didn't actually hit that. It took me 6 months to sell the place. But the cost of units around here are absolutely ridiculous. And so it's just like, to me, when they're saying that we have an increase, but then they're going to take it away from us in taxes for ridiculous stuff like this. With you being a realtor, how do you feel like, if you get in as a House representative, what do you think we need to do as a solution to bring the cost of living down?
Well, there's a couple things. Well, first of all, I feel that overall our economy has not been able to really function at its optimal level because of government interference. As far as the real estate goes, we have extremely constricted land use laws, which are compressing the market. You know, it's creating a lack of inventory. Obviously, we have some federal issues pressing down with the rates that have stayed pretty high. Obviously, they're coming down now, but I believe they stayed high too long, which kind of put a lot of atrophy in the market and really made it extremely unaffordable. You know, when you're at 7.25, we were at for quite a while until it came down into the mid sixes. You know, that increases a payment by, $700, $800, $900, a point and a half, or, point and three quarters. So that, combined with our highest income tax, one of the highest income taxes in the country, and then you've got the corporate activities tax, land use laws, the extreme cost to build a house, the systems development charges are making it unattractive. You got to have a lot of reserves as a builder to be able to pay the systems development charges up front, all the permitting processes, which are out of control. I mean, the permits that are needed in Portland, there's some that are just overkill. Okay. So I think if we can get the government interference out of the way, we actually might see our free market work properly, relieving businesses. And so I just don't think the priority is more taxes. I mean, we do really need to repeal. We're at that point. We're at a kind of a tipping point with affordability. I mean, we're already there. Actually, we're sitting in it. Like, we need to start repealing and scaling back is the thing to fix it.
What do you think about these multifamily units that they're building now? We see that another thing in the news that just came up is they're going to tear down the old Lloyd Center Mall now, and they're going to fill that in with living spaces. So to me, they're saying they're going to build other living spaces. And as a garbage man, I even drive through neighborhoods now where they're tearing down single family homes and putting in multi-units. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why we have sustained rising costs for single family homes here in Oregon. Is there a way to resolve that? Do you think that is contributing?
Well, we're in a kind of a catch-22. Housing, there is because of our constricted land use laws, that it is our inventory. It is affecting our inventory because the urban growth boundary has not been expanded in decades. So, and if we do that, which I think we need to look at that. And
they're keeping that constricted too. I was just talking to Scott Kaiser last week on our show, and they won't allow Malala to expand their urban growth boundaries. So same thing.
And I think that we can do it in a smart way that honors the farmland, our rural communities. There are a lot of perspectives. And I ran for Clackamas County Commissioner at one point in 2022 and 2024. And I talked to a lot of different varying opinions on that when it comes to land use. There are people that want to keep the aesthetics, and then the farming community that wants to protect the agriculture. So I think as long as, again, representative government, everybody's at the table, we could talk about ways to move the urban growth boundary in a smart way. But we have to look at the infrastructure, the sewage treatment. I mean, I know there are many cities within, there's a couple cities within House District 51 that they're having, sewage issue. I know Estacada is at capacity, and they're working on solving that. So funding for critical infrastructure is essential to be able to expand the urban growth boundary.
One of the things that I would like to see, I don't know if you're paying attention around the nation, but one of the things that Florida just did was they totally got, on a large part, got rid of property taxes over in Florida. Do you think that is something, and I know it's probably a long shot here in a supermajority Democrat state, but do you think that's something, if someone put that on the table in our House, that they would even look at?
My personal opinion is I think property taxes, I personally don't agree with them. I think there are other ways that we can fund our county operations through the state funding the county, and perhaps re-looking at our whole tax structure. I think we need to take a good look, because people think, oh, we have almost little over almost 10%, basically just under 10%, nine plus on state taxes. And we have all the property taxes. So when you add all that up, it's actually exorbitant. Then you talk the CAT, corporate activities tax. I think that when you have your house and you've deeded your house, having property taxes is basically you're paying rent. Okay. And if you lose it, you have a threat of losing your property. I'm not sure how we got here. I think people acquiesced and to a point, and would it ever pass? I think for sure we need to work on freezing taxes for seniors. I think you need a break. And no, it doesn't need to be passed to the next generation where they pick up the bill. No, it needs to be, I think 65 is reasonable. We have Social Security that kicks in. Why don't we have Social Security for property taxes? So I think at the bare minimum, we need to push for seniors to have their taxes frozen, period. End of story. I know a lot of people would really love to have property taxes abolished. And maybe that's as bold of an idea that we need to bring forward, that maybe everybody in the state would jump on it.
Yeah. All right. So I want to look at this article here. This gives us a good look at what the end of the session just ended with, and the things that they're implementing largely here in Oregon as they ended this session. So let's read through some of this. Oregon lawmakers were forced to rebalance the state's $39 billion two-year budget after President Trump's sprawling tax and budget cutting bill punched a nearly $9 million hole in it, as I was saying earlier. Mm-hmm. They accomplished that on the final day of the 5-week session Friday, in part by finding or moving large tranches of money to patch holes and even add employees and services. To me, that's part of the problem. Mm-hmm. Those increases include a new top step on state pay schedules at 2.5% cost of living increase that kicked in last month, and another 4% one planned for January 2027 when lawmakers approved the budget last June. They parked $375 million in general funds with the emergency board in anticipation they'd need to devote that money to raises and benefits. They generated an estimated $342 million more for the current budget by canceling 3 Trump administration tax cuts from the state law. So we don't even get a break from in that area. That's crazy.
I know.
The largest of which ended accelerated depreciation for businesses or individuals who buy large amounts of machinery or equipment. There you go. You're talking about farms. Republicans and business groups protested that while squelch investment that would juice the state's economy, Democrats noted most other states also disallow that break in their state tax code. Lawmakers allocated $273 million to enable the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Human Services to comply with new eligibility requirements for Medicaid and federal food assistance under the Trump bill, known as H.R. 1. That included adding 410 new positions to help with the increased workload. So we're paying out more administrative workers on this goofy thing. Budget writers learned they had $176 million in additional money at their disposal, primarily due to interest earnings on bond proceeds that sat unallocated and accruing interest during the 23 to 25 budget period. They reallocated much of that money to pay debt service on bonds, freeing up roughly $100 million in discretionary funds to spend on other priorities, including the additional Medicaid and federal food assistance eligibility checks. Budget writers also learned they can spend $101 million less than they originally allocated for the Oregon. Oh, they found out some freeing up some money here. Weird. The original allocated for the Oregon Health Plan and related taxpayer fund health insurance programs due to caseloads. That turned out to be lower than anticipated. The Legislative Fiscal Office indicated it could not provide more details about the caseload decline, and the Oregon Health Authority did not respond to requests for information, so they don't want to tell everybody how they got it, but somehow they got it. They also allocated $77 million in general funds to the Department of Forestry and State Fire Marshal's Office for wildfire-related costs. Did you have a comment there?
Well, I'm just curious. So realistically, they say they're scrambling for money. Okay, so you can earn $125,000, which is really the middle class, and you're taxed at 9.9%. But they're hurting the middle class entrepreneurs, which are now, so the tax brackets are dropping down because people can't afford to run a business. So it's kind of like, hello, support your entrepreneurs and you'll keep your 9.9% state income tax for $125K and over.
Instead, they're finding new ways to tax businesses and chasing businesses like Dutch Brothers out of the state. Go figure. Ultimately, budget writers found a path to largely close the nearly $900 million gap, primarily due to four factors. The $342 million in personal and corporate taxes that will be generated by ending the 3 Trump tax cuts was the biggest single gap closer. So we don't get the tax cuts because they have to fill the gap.
Oh, depreciation on big companies, inventory. I mean, that's a huge write-off for people.
Yeah. Representative Ed Deal of CO said he will try to gather enough signatures to put the tax breaks for voters. This is crazy to me. So we always running into this, and we have to go get all these signatures to try and put it on the ballot for the people to vote for. But then they find loopholes to make it so that we can't do that. Do you have a comment on that?
Again, we're really not seeing representative government, and the Democrat supermajority has lost sight. I mean, their priorities and they're become self-servants rather than public servants. And why should we have to chase a referendum in order to have representation and take huge, vast quantities of money, time, energy, volunteers when people are trying to work to pay their exorbitant taxes? It's getting ridiculous.
It absolutely is. Governor Kontak would likely have to call a special session, and budget co-chairs, I'm not going to read their names, warn the state would have to make draconian cuts. The state underspent its 23-25 budget. Imagine that. I don't think that's for real. By about $150 million, leaving that money available for the current budget. The state's revenue forecast brightened substantially between August 25 and February. With corporate income taxes generating at least $100 million more than expected. Additional increases in lottery proceeds and corporate activity tax for education added another $50 million. The $100 million plus in interest earnings to pay down debt and $100 million savings from lower Oregon Health Plan caseloads were large examples of many similar smaller tweaks, including substituting federal funds for state general funds in several cases. So it sounds like those federal funds were allocated for those things, and then they reallocated it to this. Am I understanding that right?
That's what it looks like to me too. And here's the thing. Let me cut to the chase. Your show is Redline.
Yeah.
I feel like this is what it looks like to me when I look at the overarching picture. Is actually they're doing a very diligent job. And when I say they, I mean the supermajority. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just for lack of business savvy, but they're pushing people into government assistance. And so they're trying to fund all the assistance while simultaneously driving people there. I mean, they're in this conundrum with funding the low income tax credits for working families, but they're pushing people into that spot. There is a line that they're pushing people in. And, when people are on assistance, of course, it's like, obviously, if you're employed, you're going to be doing your very best for your employer. Okay. So if now you're getting assistance, of course, you're going to fight for the very assistance you're getting, and you're going to fight for that. So I think that they're trying to buy votes by hurting people, and then when people are on their system, utilizing that for re-election. So anyway, that's how I see it, because they're doing everything that is oppositional to prosperity. I know Katina Kotek said she's on this prosperity roadmap, but I don't see any meaningful moves to help families and the middle class that are just getting the complete squeeze.
Right. And I think one of the other subjects that I brought up here was the fact that capitalizing off of what you just said. So they're actually hurting the actual taxpayers, but then they're reallocating to this different stuff. And one of those things that I think they're allocating to is undocumented people, illegals. I'm going to say it, illegals, right? So one of the things that has come up here in Oregon too, and I wanted to talk to you about this, is Oregon becomes the latest state to restrict ICE, other officers, from wearing masks. Now, I've been down in the midst of this, and it's crazy to me to think that a state can stop a federal officer from protecting themselves. One of the things that is happening is when we're up against these people that want to stick up for criminals and illegal aliens, which is actually what's happening, they want to dox these federal workers. So when I see this, they're actually not working with our federal agents to get murderers and rapists off of our streets. And it's really aggravating to see. How do you feel about this situation?
Yeah, coming from the whole 2020 and not liking masks, I think that however they are tasked to do their job, as long as it's in a constitutional matter, that's what matters to me most. The fact that the Oregon absolutely ignores federal law. I mean, I know they do, because I had a case that went to the Supreme Court of the United States. I mean, for election security and civil rights violations. The state bucks federal law. I think that doxing, first of all, is inappropriate for people doing their job. If that's the way they feel like it's going to curb the doxing, I get it. Like I said, as long as they're doing things in a constitutional manner, then that's the important thing. Anytime any entity, whether it's Republican or Democrat, goes over the constitutional line, then I got a problem with that. But yeah, it just blows me away that we have a sanctuary. Sounds cozy. We have a sanctuary state. But what it is saying that we don't follow federal laws, but then they want federal money, and that we have laws like in our elections. HAVA is the Help America Vote Act. They receive federal funds to run their elections, and they have to meet this criteria in order to receive those funds. It's ironic to me that it even that we're even at this point where Oregon's like, Wild West, and we don't have to follow laws. I mean, we've seen it all over where there seems to be a two-tiered justice system within our government, and then our citizens are expected to follow the letter of the law. When I have to go, I went to Europe in, spent October for a few weeks in Europe. You know, I'm going through, they're trying to do the biometrics and all this stuff, and I've got to just show all my citizenship that I'm not a citizen. Okay, I've got to show that I'm an American citizen, that I'm going into this other country. I've got to go through all their rigorous standards for citizenship. But yet in my own country, there's a conundrum here. It's completely rules for me, but not for thee. And I got a problem with that. And I know many people that are here with all the process of legal immigration, and people that are here in asylum, legitimate asylum. And that's totally great. I mean, our country is built on immigration. Okay. I'm European immigrant. You're a European immigrant. So we appreciate our immigrants. But if I have an immigrant family that has to go through years and years and years to get in the country, following all the laws to the T, but now the government's saying this group of people over here don't have to follow the same rules that these people follow. We either have laws or we don't. And that's really where we're at. We either have laws or we don't. This gray area has got to go.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how many laws we actually have on the books that aren't enforced. And then they have to come up with all these new ones to supposedly substitute and get people to obey by them. But I would like to, get a hold of this bill and actually read what it's all about. Because House Bill 4138, known as the Law Enforcement Accountability Act, requires police agencies to adopt and publicly post policies restricting the use of facial coverings to specific limited exceptions, including undercover operations, special weapons and tech SWAT operations, fire protection, health and safety. It also requires on-duty officers to visibly display their name or badge number and their agency while carrying out enforcement activities. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't understand why this is not common sense. When you see an ICE agent walking down the street, they have that displayed. They're wearing their vest. The back says who they are. In fact, I was out on my route this last week, and for the first time ever, I saw IRS criminal investigation police officers raiding a house. But you knew who they were because they had on all of their stuff. So it's crazy to me that they even have to put this in there. The law would apply to law enforcement agencies operating within the state. While this bill is not a complete solution for the escalating violence we are seeing this irritates me. We are seeing from mass law enforcement is an important step towards protecting Oregonians from a rogue, increasingly unaccountable federal presence in our communities. What about the people that are interfering with their operations when they have the legal right and are implemented by our federal government to do so?
So is the reason that they are wearing masks is because they're getting doxxed? Is that the real?
Yeah.
I mean, let me just chime on this.
Minnesota is worse than over here. I mean, because they're actually hunting them down and after their operations find out where they live and stuff.
So police officers don't wear masks. I mean, they are technically like officers. So I have mixed feelings about it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it's part of the risk of doing that job when you're a police officer or you're quote unquote any sort of law enforcement, ICE or otherwise. There is a risk that you carry when doing your job. I mean, that's kind of, I'm mixed on that topic because I understand. I think doxing should be more looked at. I think it really comes down to we need to look at the doxing aspect and put some legislation in that you can't be doxing somebody that is hired to do a job that is part of our law. I think that's really the issue is I think they need to tackle that issue personally.
I mean, am I out of line here though? So naturally we would think that our law enforcement agencies should have some accountability, but what about the people that are actually interfering in their operations? I mean, is that something we feel should be people held accountable? Because I mean, obviously, if they're doing things that need to be done according to our law, why are we interfering with it?
Well, Portland's been interfering with a lot of stuff. I think it's good fodder for their political cannon. Frankly, I mean, we've seen Portland become a hotbed of political agitation, and it's actually upsetting because it's why businesses are leaving Portland. So I think that our current Democrat majority and the governor are actually fueling a lot of this dissension. I think that Congress should look into, anti-doxing protections. And that goes for anybody. There are people in all kinds of law enforcement that are, Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, non-affiliated. Many people are in the law enforcement agency, and there should be, of course, obviously we want people to be accountable. We don't want, law enforcement to go and do anything that's, violating civil rights or constitutional authorities. But we also need to have people be able to do their job effectively without worrying that their families are going to be terrorized. So I think that there's multifaceted issues, and the Oregon lawmakers are only looking at one side of the story.
And see, just to capitalize off of what you said, where they're not, where our government here in the state is actively not abiding by federal law. Here's another one. Oregon lawmakers approve bill to keep license plates data away from federal immigration. Why do you think that is?
Can you scroll back again? This was, oh gosh. Okay.
So, I mean, what if we have a criminal on the loose and he steals a car? They can't go and get that data to try and track him down now here in our state. That's essentially what it's saying.
First of all, I actually have a big problem with the fact that criminals, during COVID, criminals were released that were violent criminals and offenders. And I'm not to go back there, but that there was a huge tranche of people that were released. I feel like the victims' rights are not adhered to at all. I think victims have preference over criminal offenders. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why the lawmakers who approve this do not understand that victims need protection. Okay? So if somebody's committed a crime, just like anybody else, okay, they need to be held accountable, period. So these are federal officers. And if they're people that are committing crimes, they need to have access, just like our whole police database that has everybody who's ever committed a crime, nationwide, it is in a database. So we're doing things different now. We're separating one federal authority from another. Oregon writes its own rules, it seems, but they want the federal cash. So,
well, honestly, they're going hand in hand with a lot of these other Democrat states too, because obviously they're not the first to do this. Just like with that immigration bill we just read, it's coupled off of California's one, is what I read. If we would have read through that, you would have saw that. But now, so I've done a few of the subjects that I wanted to cover. Let's go back to your platform and let's talk about some stuff that you want to talk about and how you would approach if you were elected. Here, let me pull this up again on your page, and let's talk about some of the things on your issues page that you really care about. Any of those that stand out?
Absolutely. Well, fire prevention is something that has been neglected, and I did see that they allocated money towards prevention, but I have kind of a big, bold vision of how we could do that in a sustainable way that mitigates the fire possibility, and also reuses our forest materials, just like Oregon was a timber industry. A lot of the economy was built off the timber industry in the past. Obviously, we've run into a lot of snags on being able to utilize some of the lumber. But I think a great starting point is wildfire mitigation by going in, taking out the dead fuel loads, because we've had catastrophic fires over the last 6 years. Obviously, last year, thank God, was not as dramatic, but still we have wildfires. And the cost is astronomical. It's driving up the homeowner's insurance. And in some cases...
Do you have any idea what the budget is for that?
The current budget, as far as like being able to manage this, no, I do not have a budget calculated. This would have to be...
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but this would have to be drilled down. This is my idea. So just like the bottle bill in the 70s, we reuse and recycle. We go out and get the dead woods, the fuel loads, and within how you have to do it within a way that helps biodiversity. So, there's certain amount of decaying matter that needs to be in the forest floor that supports the eco health. Taking this out, all of this out all over the state, managing the forests, using our current basically reinvigorating the forestry industry that is partnering on this, and then chipping, pulping, and using it for mulch and offering it back to the public. Since the public would be funding it, it would be offered back to the public to use like in Portland, a lot of people do the low water garden. They like to have the mulch, the chips on their gardens for a low water maintenance gardens, for highway medians, for erosion control. We can reuse this material and offer it back to the public at a very, very reasonable price. Obviously, we don't want to compete with current garden centers and mulch centers, but there has to be a benefit for people that are doing that. And so basically in parks and playgrounds and everything, it can be made, it helps the forestry industry, takes care of our fires, preventive. The cost savings to mitigate the wildfires once they're in action is huge. Okay. Protect homeowners from losing their insurance, because now we're actively mitigating, which will put us at help us with a different insurance rating. I think it would be a win-win, honestly.
Yeah, and that's really important for some of our rural areas, because look at what happened in California over the last few years. Mm-hmm. If any of that were to happen here, and a lot of those people didn't get paid out their insurance because of their house burning down, because some of those policies ended without the insurance companies telling them and stuff like that. So yeah, it's important.
It would help our insurance rating. And I think it would be something that a lot of Oregonians could come to the table and agree on, because it covers reuse, sustainability, fire mitigation, and reinvigorates people that are already in the industry that can be partnering. So it would be a big task, but I think it would be beneficial, and it would protect our forest lands, because everybody is here in Oregon. Really, why do we put up with the terrible policies, the high taxes? It's because the geography of our state is unparalleled. It's epic. It's beautiful. That is why we put up with it. Let's really get real.
Yeah.
Is because our families are here, our careers we built. But honestly, the state is gorgeous. You've got the mountains, the forest,
very green,
the beach. We have plenty of water. So I think this could be a win-win for everybody. It really have to be something that we'd have to tackle with a lot of stakeholders.
All right. Businesses are essential to a thriving community. You want to talk about that?
Well, the cat tax, that's number one. I want to repeal. I think we're done negotiating and modifying. Done deal. So that one was enacted through the House Bill 3427, and basically it's on gross receipts. You pay it whether or not the net profit is there. It is devastating businesses. It is an extra layer for businesses, and it's actually driving the cost. It's distributing it down through our economy to where people that are in business are now having to charge more for goods and services because of it.
As an example, I just had a guy here because I wanted getting an estimate on putting a heat pump here in my home, because I bought a manufactured home. It's 1988. It has the original furnace in it, right? And he was talking to me about how Washington is worse. But one of the things, even for their business, they have to create workarounds when they're coming up with new modern pieces of equipment to accommodate these cat taxes, because they only have a certain amount of credit. And one of the things that Washington does, if you've heard, they've been trying to get rid of gas appliances and stuff like that. So one of the ways they get around that without actually saying it is saying, okay, they're going to build, let's say 10 units, and they're going to put new heat pumps in all of those units. Well, in order to incentivize putting in electric heat pumps, they give them a certain amount of carbon credits in order for them to go that direction and stay away from gas appliances. So this stuff is devastating for even small businesses like HVAC systems, and it affects us in all of our homes in that way, because their costs go up, our costs go up.
Of course. And that is a real big reason why groceries are so expensive, why, going to a small business, a cafe, all these businesses, goods and services, like you said, heating and cooling systems, this is affecting everyone, and it needs to go. Like it was, and it was instituted and became effective. Look at the date, January 1st, 2020. January 2020, when there was the pandemic was declared and businesses were being shut down, and they put a tax on them.
Yeah, in the middle.
That was Kate Brown. That was unbelievable. That talk about, we won't go there. Anyway, that was a rough time in our history. But moving forward, we need to get rid of this. And that's where we're really at, is half measures are going to avail us nothing right now. My goal when I get in office, if I am duly elected to serve, is we have to do some legislation that actually people feel like, that they feel the benefit now. Like removing the cat tax, people, it would be like, Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch, it's like they'd be celebrating. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
is there anybody in the House right now that has tried to put forward a repeal bill on that?
I haven't seen a repeal bill. There was some modifications, but not enough. Not enough.
Wow.
We need to just get rid of it.
That's appalling from the Republican side. You think that would be something they'd really want to do to try to help our businesses?
Well, I know that some have talked about repealing now. I think I just saw a video with the one with Ed talking about wanting to repeal the cat tax. So I think that's good. I had mentioned it at a event that I happened to see him at. I said, hey, we need to repeal this. There's no more modifications done. It's not. It's over. And that would be a real signal, a true signal that businesses, we're open for business and we're going to support our entrepreneurs. It's really kind of sad, actually. People, it's really what they're doing is stealing dreams. Let me just quantify it. They're stealing people's dreams.
Yep.
Young people in their 30s. I have daughters that are 31 and 33. It's like, just like when we were younger, you dream about this, a business or starting this. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner. I'm a realtor. I'm self-employed. I mean, these are our movers and shakers, our dreamers. And why are we not supporting our entrepreneurial vision? I mean, at this point, I think they've tried to tax a lemonade stand with a couple of kids there serving lemonade. I mean, it's getting ridiculous.
They want to. I've heard stories where they won't even let them do that they have to have a permit.
I have a permit to do a lemonade stand. I've got a picture in my house of my girls when they were little, and their little table out there with their lemonade stand, and they were they were selling lemonade and they're so proud. Mom, we earned some money. And it's like, we're not rewarding people for taking risks. Right now, people are, I'm going to talk about from my experience of talking to people that they are nervous to take a risk because it's too risky of an environment for business in Oregon, because they're worried that next year in a new session that there'll be some outrageous bill that could capsize all their capital investment, that could capsize, their profitability. There could be some new regulation that takes their ability to operate in a streamlined, efficient way. And the climate, the business climate is unsustainable right now. So that's why people are leaving. Intel, they took their plant to Ohio. Dutch Brothers took off. I mean, all the employers, a lot of employers are leaving for high-paying jobs.
Yep.
I mean, and the trades unions are feeling it too, because they're doing all the work for the big employers, a lot of work for the big employers that are leaving. And those are high-paying jobs. And so they're feeling it too. It's across every sector, private, the trades unions, everybody's feeling it.
Yeah. And see, and then there's no incentive to actually start a new business here, because just like you saw with what we just went over there in their ending of the session, now they're taking away all the tax cuts that Trump gave us as citizens of the United States to allocate into their general fund, right? Mm-hmm. So now we don't have, we have a general increase in our income, but now we don't have an incentive to actually start a business. So mm-hmm. This is one of the things that definitely has to go, in my opinion, but we have to move towards allowing people to make the type of money where we can give entrepreneurial ideas an avenue for opening new businesses. Am I right?
100%. I don't want to lose our candle shops, our beauticians, our cute, quaint cafes, our bookstores. I mean, that's American dream.
Yep.
Come on. Yes, we need to incentivize. Well, we need to remove the roadblocks, and I think the cat tax would be a great start. Then we need to look at, and I want to have businesses weigh in with me. What are the biggest barriers that you're facing? Okay, we know that I already have mentioned multiple times the cat tax, but what are the other barriers? I know that, like I said, the systems development charges for builders. I mean, you have to be almost established in order to maintain. So what does that do for the new person coming in that wants to start a new business? Okay, people that have been around a long time, perhaps they're over that threshold to where they don't like it, but they're managing. But the new person, we need to figure out what those roadblocks are for the new person that wants to start up a business. And that's where I want the public to weigh in with me as an elected official. If I am elected, I want people to come in and tell me, so we can look at all those ways we can cut some of those regulations. And the regulations are ridiculous things. Like, for example, Willamette Valley, the wine industry. We love the wine industry. It's great. It's a known fact that they do, they are open to public for wine tasting in there. And there's all these regulations that they can't do X, Y, and Z, or they have to work around on serving full. They can have a commercial kitchen, but can only do so many things. It's like, why are we doing that? Because it's the exclusive farm use, but we know they have tasting rooms. So it's allowing tasting rooms, but hindering them from having a stable way to, feed the public. They've got to bring food in, or they can only do so much. There's all these different things. I'm not going to go over every innuendo.
Yeah, that sounds like ridiculous.
Why can't they have a commercial kitchen? As long as they're operating as a winery, why can't they have a commercial kitchen and serve full-time to the public? Why not?
Hey, real quick, we're coming up on an hour. I know you have to be somewhere at noon. Are you okay going over a little bit here?
I have a little bit more time. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I think one of those things, myself looking into wanting to start a small business is the permit process. The absolute delay they have on getting a permit. I think that's another one of the ridiculous avenues that we have to correct and not make it so difficult to do. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. The time it takes and the exorbitant expense. I mean, our permits are too much money. First of all, it's funny. Let me give you a little contrast. Some friends of mine, they live in Wyoming and they're ranchers, and they find it astounding. You have to ask permission to do things on your property? I'm like, oh yeah, it's Mother May I all the way. And which it's too much. I mean, I get certain things, but to your point, starting a business, the permitting process, there has to be streamlining and it has to be affordable. And I mean, I'm state licensed, I'm a realtor, and I understand that all the costs associated is stay in business. And I think really looking at cutting fees, we're at a point where we need to cut some fees. We need to streamline. We need to reevaluate. If we're really going to make it affordable for businesses, we need to look at all those avenues that block them.
But the Democrats don't want to. They want to add stuff on to get more money out of you.
That's all it is. It really comes down to putting a new rule and regulation in to capture a new fee. I mean, let's cut to the chase.
Man, it's crazy. All right. Do you want to talk about maybe going to schools or homelessness? One of these other two issues?
Yes.
Ready to close up?
Yeah, I'll just touch base quickly on the homelessness and addiction recovery services. I want to put some legislation in that absolutely puts a metric and quantifies what those services and what those metrics are that we need to meet in order to keep receiving the funding. Because the problem is exacerbated. It's not getting solved. I know there's some good things going on in Clackamas County that, they want to do addiction recovery center. There's some things that there are people that are trying. So I don't want to just, slash every single thing at all. I just think we need to really look at some accountability measures. There are many organizations that are receiving exorbitant amount of monies with, the results are not measuring out. So that's what I want to do, is really get some structured plans, start to finish. It's not enough just to put somebody in a home. There's also barriers that I want to discuss, the HIPAA laws, federal HIPAA laws. I think that we need to revamp some of that, because what happens is if somebody has severe mental health issues to where maybe schizophrenic, okay, they're not going to be able to have the family help them at all, because the family cannot find out anything because our HIPAA laws are standing in the way. I agree with HIPAA laws to a certain extent, but when it's keeping people and pushing people into the system without the bridge of the family being able to know what's going on, when somebody is schizophrenic, they cannot advocate for themselves anymore. And the family's locked out of the process. Many people on the street are suffering from schizophrenia, bipolar, to where they don't even have the faintest idea how to start advocating for themselves because they can't remember day to day.
PTSD, some of our veterans.
Yes, PTSD. So I think I would like to work with some mental health, and I have a bachelor's in human development, but I want to work with some mental health professionals and talk about some of the core issues to be able to reunite families and integrate them into the process. There has to be some real serious trigger point that allows the HIPAA laws to allow a crack in the door for somebody that is suffering from terrible, terrible mental illness.
Boy, let me tell you, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I haven't heard anybody come at this with that approach. I think that's excellent, considering it's clear that these people can't take care of themselves, which is why they end up homelessness, but it's the family stymied from trying to help take care of them because of HIPAA laws.
100%.
Interesting.
100%. So I think we need to look at how to have some trigger points to where people can intervene, because families have been cut out of the process. If you can't get any information, how do you know how to help somebody?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. For real. That's
So,
good. That's good, Dana. I like it.
thank you. Okay, so really getting down to causes and conditions, just to, that's essentially my thought with the homeless addiction treatment. The next one is I will stand firmly against tolling. I don't agree. And by the way, that's not something, it's quiet right now, but it's still under the surface. Okay. There is still infrastructure.
Just another way to garner some tax dollars, right?
Exactly. And I fought hard against the 205 tolling when I was running for commissioner. I put it right on my platform and in Clackamas. Here's the thing. Our metropolitan area, just by virtue of when it was designed, it's a very intimate highways. Okay. A lot of people travel many times over, like, for example, 205 from between Westland and Oregon City. You know, the businesses on that side of the corridor would suffer because people will start avoiding tolls. You're going to funnel people into residential areas, which creates extra safety hazards. It's just, it could cost, and then companies that travel for work and go back and forth on, let's say, even I-5, they travel many times per day.
Yeah, but one of the things, see, this is what I see geographically. 205 is just an outlet for the flow of traffic, because honestly, it just remerges with I-5, and I-5 is really our own only corridor to Southern Oregon and into Washington. Even up in Washington, they have an extra highway that breaks off, but then comes back in again. So
we have a small core, you know, we really do, in an intimate core of our travel ways in the state. So I
they're really just taking advantage of this.
Totally. And you know what? People can't afford that. My God, it's like enough is enough. That's when you zoom in on the 360 foot level here, I look at the situation and I go, we obviously need to reevaluate where we're spending money. Just like I cut my budget when times are tough, the government needs to we need to go and lay it out on the table, spreadsheet it, evaluate it. And if we need to make some cuts, this idea, they've got people trained to think, oh, the government doesn't need to pay cuts. No, the government needs to make cuts, just like you do in your own household, just like you postpone a Hawaii vacation for a year or two till you can afford it. That same philosophy needs to be brought back into the government.
Yeah. And how about actually paying off stuff? How many of these bills that are supposed to be sunsetted don't actually sunset? Stuff like that.
Exactly.
And they just continue.
Just reasonable stuff, right? Reasonable stuff.
Yep. Totally.
So schools, I don't know where you were.
Right there.
Yes, I think parents should be able to. I actually have some education background. I was an educational assistant. And I think it's paramount that parental rights need to be honored. And I think that parents need to have a right to choose what educational setting is best for their situation, their goals, and their child's learning. Lots of kids operate in different settings better than others. So,
quick question. Are you endorsed or backed by Parents' Rights in Education? Just a person.
I haven't sought their endorsement.
Okay.
We're coming up against the deadline. So, you know,
no, I'm just curious because I really like them.
How about this? I endorse them. I've got it on my platform. I endorse Parents' Rights in Education, you know, on my platform. I'm not, there's no official, but I believe in the philosophy. And also educators, we need to partner with our teachers. Many teachers are feeling overwhelmed too, because there are some roadblocks. Class sizes are huge.
Yep.
Bottom line is we need to have funding for our schools. And I've got a school up here at Furwood Elementary in my district that I actually worked at. 1970s orange carpet still.
Oh.
I know carpet doesn't seem like a big, you know, but come on, 1970s orange carpet. You mean we're putting money in our schools? We can't get, you know, change the carpet out, you know, obviously since the 70s, you know, sanitary, let's do a little refresh. I know seems minimal, but it's not. It's just really a symptom of a bigger problem. They're saying they're funding education. and they're funding it to a degree. But we've had bonds out here, and lo and behold, we still have 70s carpet. So who's allocated? Where's the money getting allocated? So I think really, just like I do, like I said, I do spreadsheet for my own business. Every year I evaluate what my goals are. I evaluate where I need to be and what my goals are. We need to evaluate what's working, what's not, and we need to reprioritize our kids in the.
You know, I'd be curious to see what kind of funding our rural areas get for improving their schools, because I've lived in a few different communities over here in Portland and in Clackamas, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, and I've seen some of those federal funds allocated in improving like our high schools, especially our high schools. Maybe not more towards elementary or whatever, but so I've seen some of those tax dollars go into those, and those are massive schools. But what about our rural communities? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I think there needs to be more done in the rural communities. We have some old dilapidated schools, asbestos, all kinds of things that need to be improved. And
we just had a asbestos thing at a Trader Joe's. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Anyways, go ahead.
Just the point is, if we're really going to support our schools, kids and schools should not be a leverage point. That should be primary. That's our next generation of leaders, people that are going to integrate into our society. They need to have all the preparatory training necessary. And my number one thing is they need to have age-appropriate curriculum. Okay?
Yep.
Just like age-appropriate. Need I say more?
Nope. All right.
So
yeah. That's your entire platform there. I want to go on to one other issue here, because I found this very interesting that popped up in our headlines.
Can I say one other thing on being a realtor on property rights are extremely important to me. I know a while back there was some talk about wells, and I will stand firmly. When you bought your property, you got all the rights guaranteed in that contract, in that property. That means your well you put in, everything, hands off. End of story.
Right. Okay. So Kotek loses out on 2 previous endorsements. She lost the teachers union and the Working Families Party. What is that about? What do you think?
I think that
is that good? You think that's good for Oregon?
I do. I think that that's a signal that people are wanting to move away from the detrimental policies that every single person in every sector is feeling the oppressive nature that is unfolded in Oregon. I think it's a referendum on sense and sensibilities, and when everybody's affected by it, it's not enough. Okay, like the lip service of you're doing a prosperity roadmap at this point is lip service, because we're not feeling it. So I think it's good. I think it's great that they're looking at, and I'm not speaking for them in any way, shape, form, but to me, my perception is they're starting to look with clearer eyes on people that actually want to be public servants rather than self-servants. And that's our big problem. We have self-servants or we have public servants. And the gap is getting wider. It's getting more apparent. So I'm glad. Oregon, open your eyes and pick honest, ethical public servants for your next leaders.
And honestly, I feel like, because I know that the teachers union is the single most biggest contributor to our Oregon governors. Totally. Not that they're stepping out completely and never going to do it again, but the fact that they stepped out this time leaves room for other candidates to be viable, in my opinion.
100%. We need to everybody should be welcome into the conversation. Like teachers unions, anybody, like find your ethical candidate and take the t-shirt off. Find an ethical candidate. The R, the D, let's remove that for a minute. Okay, I'm obviously running under the Republican Party, and I agree with the platform over another platform. Okay, but find a person that's ethical. And I think Republicans should welcome open arms unions who want sense and sensible policies. Okay, I don't think we should be closed door in any way, shape, form. I think that if we're working towards policies that are benefiting all Oregonians, I think trades, teachers unions, come on board. We need you to turn it around. We need you to turn it around.
Amen. All right. Man, that was a great show. I really enjoyed our conversation today. You had a lot of new perspectives that I'd never heard before, and I love what you're saying. Do you want to tell the people how they can reach you on, other than your website? Where can they find you on social media?
Certainly. Well, I really appreciate the show. It was wonderful, and I appreciate the in-depth conversation. And these are the things that need to happen. So they can find me on my, it's Dana Hindman-Allen for Oregon's House District 51. That would be on my social, Dana Hindman-Allen for House District 51. And then Instagram, my heading will be same thing. So yeah, I look forward. It's Dana for Oregon is on my Instagram. Okay, so Dana for Oregon, FOR.
Cool. And what areas does District 51? I'm curious because I want to be able to vote.
Sandy, which I live in Sandy for the last 26 years, Canby, Sandy, Estacada, Eagle Creek, and small parts of Oregon City. So basically the rural Clackamas County communities in between that district. So it is exclusively in Clackamas County. And I actually ran for Clackamas County. I made a lot of connections. I learned a lot on my last two races, and I feel like this is going to be great. And I really would like your support. Please learn about me. And yeah. Thank you.
I think you might be right on the board because I'm like in Clackamas. It's called Clackamas. I don't know. It's like right on the edge of Happy Valley, but right off of Highway 212. So maybe I'll have to look.
No, I think that's someone else's district that's running. I think I'm not sure exactly the district. I think that's maybe 39, maybe. No, 52, maybe.
Oh, yeah, no, I think you're right. 39 or 37.
37, I think. Yeah, I think it's 37. So
no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I appreciate this conversation. This is great. We covered a lot of topics. And thank you for having me on.
Man, this is the information that the voters need, and I'm excited to get it out there. So thank you for joining Redline today. And ladies and gentlemen, like I always say, it's time to draw the red line in your life, the red line in your mind when we're talking about political stuff, and the red line against this world system. Let's hear it for Dana. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Excellent. Have a good day. Thank you.